I noticed
Good.
last week was you guys had a smaller show, so
Yeah.
you were a little bit not as long, right? So
Well, yeah, I just kind of kept it to an hour, but it was a good show. Well,
good.
we are live now. Welcome to Al and Paul. I know you guys have been waiting. We're on episode 6 now, which is pretty cool. Our Instagram collectors roundtable, and we were kind of talking about where to go with our episode, and I think it's pretty clear. We have a friend in the hobby who's kind of caught up in some negativity, and he's feeling like he needs to take a break. But we thought we would talk about what keeps the hobby fun for us, And I think these two guys that are in here now, Jimmy and Nick, I know you both. We just love talking about our cards. That keeps things exciting for us and fun for us. And Jimmy with his breaks that he's been doing, and you putting sets together, Nick, which has been really cool to see that, behind you, it's all complete. There it is. Me, I got
Rainbow.
this scanner here, and I'm having fun getting a new perspective on certain cards. Like, for instance, the Summit. That year that Summit has all those different parallels. I think it's the sideways card. The Tebow is a sideways card. I think it's 96, 97. There's like 4 different parallels.
Premium stock, yeah,
Yeah,
artist
dude,
proof,
those
ice,
just
yeah.
look awesome. So, yeah, good. Cartel showed up right when we started. What's up, man? Good to see
How's
you.
it going, guys? Sorry about
Good.
Hey,
that.
Cartel.
Arts, how you doing?
Perfect timing, man. Well, we're
Right
gonna
on.
we're gonna chat about what keeps the hobby fun for us, and we're kind of gonna dive into that a little bit because as we have a buddy who's kind of like, I need to take a break. This isn't fun anymore. So I thought it would be good to kind of reemphasize what is fun about this. It is still a hobby. It is not. The market is keeping us in this mindset. Jimmy, you talk. I don't know. Maybe you can talk about it for a minute. I mean, the other day, Jimmy messaged us. He said, "You know what? I'm gonna have to consider selling almost everything, like 3/4 of my collection, just because the market is so high." And I know I'm not the only one who has considered, who's had to think about, like, well, I wonder what all this stuff is worth right now. Never before did I care because it was just about the collecting. So, I mean, Jimmy, why did that come to your mind? Like why are we, why are collectors having to think that way now?
Well, I mean, I've done it in the past before, um, mainly in baseball.
Mm-hmm.
So a couple of examples would be I liked when Reed Johnson played for the Blue Jays. He almost played like a hockey player out there. That's not a name many people would know.
I know who that
But
is, yeah, for
yeah,
sure.
he ended up going to the Cubs, and he started off the season like mega hot, like batting like 320, like he was just driving in runs. His stuff shot up like crazy. I didn't hesitate for a minute. I had a huge collection, sold everything. Same thing happened with Ricky Romero on the Jays. I was like, this guy was getting hot. I was like, I dumped everything I had of him, and I bought it all back later once he kind of flamed out. But I was like, whatever. I was selling his like Bowman Chrome autograph rookies for like $60, and I
That's funny.
bought back a PSA 90 for $5 after his career was over. So,
Mm-hmm.
and the same with Josh Hamilton. I was buying Josh Hamilton before, when he was making his comeback, and I
Mm-hmm.
bought everything of his for super cheap. And then that night, the home run derby where he was launching
That was
bombs,
amazing.
it was
That was amazing.
incredible. I actually sat for a little bit after that, so I lost a little bit of money, but like then I just let everything go, and that pretty much paid for a lot of my college. So, um,
Right. So you're
but
saying though, like the selling is not necessarily a negative. You actually that keeps it fun for you, trying to like find that
yeah,
perfect time.
well, so
Uh,
this is where I stand. I love collecting. Like I'm a complete like I love going after like complete insert sets or players like Jim Carrey. Like I want to do it all.
mm-hmm.
But once you have it, then it just kind of sits. So
Right.
you have an option. You can leave it sitting in a binder forever and just look through it when you feel like it. Get it graded. Hopefully you get some high grade, which is nice. That's nice to look at for a while. But
Mm-hmm.
after a while, um, uh, like if you don't have deep pockets, you can't just keep on accumulating. You have to,
Right.
out with the old and with the new sometimes because
Mm-hmm.
you want to acquire new assets, and sometimes that asset might be huge. Like let's just say, like I've said this a million times. Like if Ovechkin breaks the Gretzky's scoring record, his cards are going to go up even more. But the entry point for a PSA 10 cartel, what's that now? Like $2,000?
I think it's actually $5,500 US for an Ovechkin PSA 10.
Okay, yeah, it's gone up like so much.
Two
Okay,
hundred
that's
and
a
fifty
high
percent. Yeah.
that's a high entry point. But if he beats Gretzky's record and that card stays where it is now, it's going to go up even more. That's
Yeah.
like it's like card 101. So it's like, okay, I'm a normal guy with a normal paycheck, how am I going to get $5,500? It's all sitting back there. let's just sell some stuff off. And again, that's what keeps the hobby fun. Like it's the people I think that might not be enjoying it are the ones that are like the accumulators where they just like collecting, which is great. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
I would love to do that. I would love to build an incredible collection, but I don't have the space or the funds to keep on just accumulating. Like for me, I need to keep on moving things. And it is fun to say, okay, I think Jack Eichel's Young Gun's going to go up a lot this year. I'm going to buy 10 of them right now.
Mm-hmm.
And it makes it more fun because you're checking box scores every night. How did Eichel
Yep.
do? How did Eichel do
Yep.
tonight?
Same.
And it's
Yep.
fun. It makes it interesting. And then
Right.
it feels great if you hit the big payday, but most of the times you won't. And then
Yeah.
to be honest, I look back and like laugh. I'm like, what was I thinking? Like with certain guys that you load up on. And then sometimes you're like, there's these guys that you just like have this gut feeling like, um, sorry, I keep on using baseball examples, but like Ben Zobrist, for example,
Yep.
when he came out, no one thought anything of that guy. But I was like, oh, I like that guy. I like him. So I picked up a few things and then, things took off for him. And so like there are guys out there like that where you can, it's like a very cheap entry point to get their stuff and you're first to market and you
Right.
make a killing. So it's definitely, for me, I think that's interesting because I feel like I'm always engaged and involved in the hobby because
Right.
there's something more to it than just me. There's another
Right.
element. It's like the player. And again, you could have a player that's playing for Nashville right now. And then they go to Chicago and they score 30 goals a year. So a guy who scores 30 in Nashville compared to Chicago, there's a big difference on the grading, the pay scale for that. So
Well,
again,
yeah.
like that's what makes it interesting. Like it's hockey or baseball or whatever sport, anything could happen. There's different markets. Like it's just fun to be involved in what's going on now.
Right. No, those are all great points. I mean, Cartel, you too. I mean, we've had some really good discussions about the grading side of things and how you've pulled the cards that you have graded and what that experience is like for you. I mean, is that something that really keeps you invigorated and enjoying the hobby?
Well, unfortunately, it's part of my short list of the issues that I'm having because,
Mm-hmm.
that is something that generally gives me, the good vibes is that part of it, organizing, uh, putting things aside. But now you have to deal with the fact that you're not going to get your cards back from PSA for like a year, so that takes a little bit away from it. So, in
Mm.
my opinion, that's one of the legit complaints that we're dealing with in the hobby is obviously the difficulty getting retail product, the wait times for grading. I mean, the
Mm-hmm.
grading was kind of integral for me in everything I was doing because you would rely on those submissions to come back, and then you could parlay that into other things that you're keeping an eye on.
Right.
I'd give away if there was a card that came back a PSA 8 that I looked at and I'm like, oh man, I missed something. I'd often like give that card away and make someone's day.
Right.
That whole process that was going pretty smoothly has now slowed down.
Right.
Um, but beyond that kind of thing, I don't know what you guys have touched on in particular. I'm trying to stay positive in all this. I know
Right.
that I don't know if we discussed our friend and his
Not
taking
yet.
a step back, not yet.
Not yet.
But
No.
it's just that I don't mean to kind of swerve from your question, but I'll just give you guys a quick example. Like I thought to myself, Jonathan Huberdeau is a good purchase right now.
Mm-hmm.
He's having a hell of a year. The Panthers are playing beyond expectations.
Yep.
And I said to myself, this guy's card is worth roughly 1/10 of another card in that set, the Nathan McKinnon. So I bought a few, and I'm talking about 4 or 5 days ago. And that card is now up. There's one up right now, ending in 4 hours. That is now over $100, more than what I paid. It's coming in on 300 US, and the market is just behaving so intensely reactionally and
Mm-hmm.
quickly that it's putting a lot of people off. But what I'm,
Right.
what I'm trying to remind people of is, your inventory is now a lot more expensive than you thought it was. So it's like Jimmy's saying, you go back there and you realize all the stuff I have is now far more expensive than it was and far more in demand.
Mm-hmm.
So the idea is, you can move and take advantage of some of those, some of the items you already own. If you're looking at some new stuff, you'll be paying more, but you'll be
Right.
getting more for what you're putting out to try to get that stuff. So I think, and then as well in the realm of grading, we're seeing new companies come in to deal with the turnaround time issues. So that's interesting / exciting. and people are still valuing slabs above and beyond all else. So as far as like market indicators and market trends, that's the number one thing. People are trying to source cards to grade, or cards that are already graded, or crossing over cards. That seems to be something that is really driving the hobby and the market. So yeah, for me, it's just really kind of taking the time to see all these trends, see how everything's moving, going back into my stuff and seeing what makes sense to me in terms of what should be moved at the prices it's at right now, and trying to find those little opportunities. Like the thing that I'm kind of making a priority right now is all the stuff that I dragged my feet on, I want to get on. So if there was players that I was waiting, it's terrible right now because they've gone up so much. And then I have to go into the archives and decide what can I move so I can get this player that I really want to invest in, that I waited for. I think that's probably the situation a lot of us are in. I'm trying to finish off I'm actually trying to upgrade a couple of O-Pee-Chee sets. And there were some raw Lemieux and Waz this afternoon, and man, the bidding got hot and heavy and I got shut out. It's just a little bit more time looking around, a little bit more effort. But it does get tiring because now I'm sure Jimmy knows you used to be able to watch the market maybe monthly or weekly. Now you have to watch it. Now you have to watch it daily.
Hourly.
Yeah, like during a game last night. Like, you know.
Well, let's talk about Joel Ferriby. I think he is the perfect example of the market this year.
Oh man,
we should first.
Yeah, we should pump his card so I can move his two young guns.
We should. We need a pitch in to get Matt a present for his birthday, a Joel Ferriby jersey.
I will never wear that ever. I will sell it with my young guns as a lot, and I will say thanks for the money, fellas.
And we'll get you your box of Hunchbacks of Notre Dame cards too, with a PSA 10 Quasimodo.
I already have my box that's staying sealed. That thing's not.
You need that 10 though.
Yeah, you need that 10, man, with the Quasi.
I would just love to be the guy or girl at PSA when they open, like, there's like, an Aho Young Guns, there's a Svechnikova Young Guns, and then Quasimodo behind that to be great. It should be like, what the? Anyway,
just showing as a human, you get all kinds of ranges, that's all.
Yeah, that's true. Well,
guys, I kid you not, I would, like in the early 90s, there was a brand called Laughs, and it was like TV show cards. They have one of like Steve Urkel, like Joey Gladstone from Full House. I'm like, I would love a Joey Gladstone PSA 10 rookie card.
Joey.
In his hockey uniform.
You better have some
Red Wings
cash.
jersey.
Yeah.
Red Wings fan, yeah.
I want a Stonewall rookie card. Isn't there a card of that goalie from Full House with the Stonewall mask?
That was awesome. I love that Full House hockey episode.
Charlie Conway, man. Where's the Conway rookie?
Charlie
Conway.
Conway.
Reach out to Phantom Cardboard. I don't know
he has the coolest things.
He'll make a Joey Gladstone in a Red Wings.
I saw that he just posted a bunch of, like, the bowling movie Kingpin. He just posted it was like a 4 or 5 card pack of like all the characters.
Oh
I was like, that's so cool. And there's a Cam Neely Seabass Pro Set card, 1991. It's so good.
That's awesome, dude. Well, what about you though, Nick? I mean, you've talked a lot about the set building. Is that what continues to keep the hobby happy or exciting for you? Is just continue to hunt those sets down?
Yeah, for the most part, I'll be honest, like you said, with everything kind of going up, it's the old thing, you zig when everybody zags. At this point, I'm just looking for some kind of cards I've always wanted. I do enjoy just kind of watching auctions. I know Will, Dollar Rookies, kind of got me on that too, and I kind of noticed I like just kind of watching these things kind of get out of hand, so I do enjoy that, just visualizing it, but kind of chasing like cheap inserts, cheap parallels, stuff like that, or But yeah, if stuff pops up, I'll jump on it. But just kind of sitting back a little bit and, kind of going through my inventory. And like you said, if something comes up, I'll just kind of move something if I need to.
Right.
But I could see, like I said, Jimmy said, the accumulators kind of getting exhausted, especially in this market, because my dad was an accumulator. He wanted to get 1, 2, 3 of everything. That's just the way he was. And I can tell you right now, I could see him being completely exhausted by this market if he was still involved and just getting priced out and just wanting to, like I said, kind of walk away a little bit or take a break because it can be exhausting.
Well, go ahead, Jimmy.
I was just going to say a quick point that it's just, if your perspective on the market is, the hobby is fun, it's not a business, it's, to collect and enjoy, then I could definitely see where people will get frustrated from that perspective. because a lot of people look at it with like their child eyes. That it's
Yes.
like this fun hobby that you can go to the store and buy a pack for $2 or whatnot. But like things have just unfortunately just changed so much, and I think that could be disheartening for some people.
But I mean, I think maybe that's what our friend is dealing with. You know what I mean? But I think perspective is everything, and I think it's super important. I've reminded you guys, and you remind me of this too. Is like enjoy what you do have. You know, I mean, you can get really caught up in this like moving things coming in, things going out, things coming in, things. I mean, that's what we look forward to, right? The new shiny toy type thing. But it is so important to enjoy what you do have. I think that goes for anything in life. You know what I mean? You could be married with kids or married or whatever, and then you got this other guy who doesn't have this collection that you do, and you're like, oh wow, I do have a pretty nice collection. And I think that maybe
Gratitude,
that's
man.
yeah, I think
We
the
all need to
attitude
do that
about the
every day.
yes. And I don't know, for me personally, what keeps this hobby the most enjoyable is my interactions with my friends, you guys, my other collectors in baseball. That is what keeps it exciting, because if we were all in the same town, I don't know if we'd have the same hobby fatigue. We'd be hanging out, looking at each other's collections, and I think it would maybe give us a different perspective as compared to being in our own little worlds. And the market is so hot and heavy. This reminds me of when Project 2020 blew up for like a week, but this is on a grander scale. Everything's blowing up except that, for good reason, because it's crap. But
No, you're right.
yeah,
You're right. Having the group to chat with has really helped during times like this. Because I could see
Well,
if
it's
you were just
fun.
trying to be in solo and not really communicating, you could just be like, But just having, like you said, just having some friends to talk about the hobby, that always helps too.
absolutely.
Definitely.
I mean, the conversations in that group chat that go on. I mean, I miss some of it, to be honest
They
with you,
go,
because
go all over the place.
but
Anything and everything.
everybody's just saying all these interesting thoughts, and I'm like, man, this is really getting me to kind of like think about the hobby in a different way, and everybody's got their own perspective, and I think those are the types of things that people need to think about doing a little bit more. Don't just get caught up in your own little man cave, like, okay, like market, like stuck in the zone of money. It's more. There's more to the hobby than that. It's supposed to be fun. That's what you said, Nick. Like, this hobby is supposed to be enjoyable, and there's lots of ways to do that. Whether it's selling and picking up cards or doing group breaks or whatever, but it has to stay enjoyable. And I think that's getting lost in some people. Like the whole idea of hobby fatigue. It's really easy to get there. And so, I mean, how close have you guys gotten? Let's be honest. Within the last 3 months of saying time to take a break, has anybody gotten close to that?
I've usually, to be honest, by like Sunday at lunch, I've had absolutely enough for the week. Seriously, I'm just exhausted because like there's like nothing, like barely anything happens during the week. Like I'm busy, working on deals, getting things listed. But then once like even Thursday night hits, people are messaging me for stuff. Like I get messages like crazy all weekend. I have auctions going on. I'm talking to people all weekend. I'm packaged like I sent Matt you how much I packaged last weekend,
Dude, there was
and
like a
I'm just
hundred something in there. That was crazy.
but by noon I'm absolutely done. And on Mondays I don't do anything to do with cards. I clean, to be honest. I'll clean the house and do chores, and I love it. Like nothing to barely anything with cards on Monday. That like I need a break, and it's nice. I mean that's what people need to remember is that it can't be cards 24/7. You need to take time for yourself to do other things. It's
Absolutely.
tough again with this market. You really want to capitalize on it, so you don't want to take the foot off the gas too much. But sometimes you're dragging your feet a little when you don't give yourself that separation or that break and do something different.
For sure. Cartel, what about you, man? I mean, like, how are you keeping that fatigue from getting to a point where you're like, fine, I got to take a break?
Yeah, I can definitely like identify with what Jimmy said in terms of the fatigue by the end of the week. But the reality is like I'm actually not I'm not running things much differently than I was this time last year or this time the year before. I do always I mean people talk about they're up all night looking through eBay listings. That kind of was part of my past. I've been there, and again, you have to love it. You have to enjoy it, because if you're going to be surrounded by it and doing so much of it, you have to really love it on a deep level. But I don't find myself operating much differently. And a lot of people talk about the crazy market, but I mean, if you've been around for the last say couple decades, going to shows, and things like that. You know, there's always been like little spikes, and there's always been cards that are in demand. There's always been people going crazy. I think I told the story a couple podcasts ago where, you know, that expo when they unveiled 2015-16 Series 1, that was nuts. Like, I hadn't seen a show like that up to that point. I'm sure if we had shows now, that might be the case, but I don't see it being like incredibly different. But you're just dealing with all these little specific bumps, like I mentioned earlier, like a card that you're bidding on, all of a sudden 25 people are bidding on it at the last 3 seconds. Like, people put up those videos of like the last 3 seconds of an auction, and it's like 80 people were waiting for that moment, and the card just quadruples. The wait times for grading, it's just kind of like you have to be more patient.
Right.
Like Jimmy said, you've got to find the time for other stuff, or you will become like you will. I mean, mind you, in lockdown in Toronto, I've kind of already becoming, my hair is like I'm like a mad scientist. I'm like graying faster and gaining weight while I'm surrounded by cards, and I'm finding like random stuff in like nooks and crannies, like McDonald's sets that have been like lying around. So yeah, I mean, it's just you got to have more patience for it. I think that the advantage for me and maybe all you guys is just that we've been there, done that. We've been in the hobby. But I think for like someone new or coming back, they're just going to be like, what the hell is going on?
It's got to be overwhelming for a new
This
person.
is a lot to deal with. Yeah, and that's what I'm hearing. That's what I'm hearing specifically from people who came back. Like, there's a lot of newbies who they were like, oh, I heard it's hot and heavy, I'm ready to go. But the people coming back are like, what is going on? This is not like.
Don't go on Facebook. All the Facebook groups are people just complaining, saying grading is a scam. Like just I was like, I
don't have Facebook
stopped
anymore.
going. I stopped going on Facebook.
Yeah.
But yeah, I can't deal with it. Like like I'm like, oh my goodness. Like yes, a lot has happened since you've been out of the hobby, and to be honest, I was even skeptical about grading myself. 5-6 years ago, and I did a little bit just because of like, okay, like let's try it out. Which I'm glad I did, because I'm grading like crazy now. I'm sending so many cards in because it's like grading is the way of the future. Like it's here to stay. And yes, the wait time is a little bit discouraging or frustrating, but I see it as a game in a sense, because it's kind of cool. It's like, okay, what's going to be hot when I get my cards back in 7, 8, 9 months? And I kid you not, like it's fun. It's like it's a game, and like I love reading about like business leaders and whatnot, and that's one common trait that they say about like high level people in business is they see money as a game, like they see money as their friend. So I thought that's kind of cool. I'm like, that's neat. I think it kind of puts things in perspective, where it's like, okay, you can't look at it as like, oh, well, I put $100 onto this, and if I lose it, it's over. Oh no! Like, if you stress yourself out about it, it's not going to be fun. So in a sense, you have to make it a game for yourself.
And let's not forget that the reason why grading exists, that I remind people, are these people coming back to the hobby and sending me texts with a picture of their Eric Lindros score rookie card. The reason why grading exists is because the concept was, if people are going to be trading, particularly on the internet, sight unseen, you need a third party giving an unbiased opinion, and that's what created grading. That was the whole point. So I've always been a big supporter of it. If one of you really needs a specific card in specific condition, I'll give you an example. I need a Patrick Waugh that has horrible centering. I have nicer ones, but I have one particular set where everything is 80-20 off to the left, and I want to find Patrick Waugh like that. And I want it to be, and I want it to be roughly a 7. And I don't. Number one, I don't want to take a guy's word for it. I don't want to look at like bad pictures. I just want to see it in a slab that's been certified and is real, and that helps me. I mean, that's just an example of, you know what I mean, right? Because one man's Eric Lindros that he was throwing around is not another man's Eric Lindros that's in a gem mint slab, because an unbiased third party, said that it was. So, so yeah, that the whole argument about grading being a scam or whatever, I just think that's people that are not used to new stuff. You have to be, though. You have to be open to new things in the hobby.
Right.
It's evolving, and you have to be open to it. So
I mean, Nick, are you? I feel like you're one of the guys that keeps the fatigue from showing up by just looking through the collection. You know, I don't feel like a lot of, not that we don't do that, but
Yeah.
if it wasn't for the scanner, I can tell you this, that these Tebows would just be sitting in a box right now, and I wouldn't be looking at them as much. So is that something that really helps you out with keeping away from that hobby fatigue setting in?
Yeah, well, first to Cartel's point about the hair, beard, and weight. I think I'm about a month away from being comic book guy from The Simpsons. About a month away. But no, that definitely helps me. Like you said, just kind of going through my old stuff. I'm not as much on the business side of things of it. You know, I don't have a lot of graded stuff. As you guys know in our group chat, I've been kind of picking all your guys' brains. I'm kind of slowly getting into it myself. I may not be submitting things for a while, you know, to your guys' point about I don't feel like waiting 16 months to get my cards back right now, especially a process I've really never gone through. So
Right.
that's something I feel like exploring down the road. But I feel there's still a lot of exploring for me to even do because I was out of the hobby for so long.
Mm-hmm.
So kind of coming back and like I said, just kind of, you know, I'm still in my 90s trance of just trying to collect those guys and from when I was a kid. So I'm, like I said, just kind of, my dad left me way too much crap too. So it kind of helps me just kind of just go through stuff and, you know, keep it fresh.
Right.
But if I was on the business side, because we talked about it, we've had a few bad experiences, a few of us on eBay
all
recently,
have.
and it can really kind of dampen the way you feel about it. But it is what it is. You just got to take it with a grain of salt and just kind of keep moving forward.
Right. Well,
Go ahead, Matt.
Tim.
You go ahead.
Well, I was just gonna say, I think now that I've heard, you know, Cartel, Jimmy, you, all of our buddies that are having these experiences, good and bad, I think it's really important, even us, to be taking something from that and learning, because your expectations are everything. You know, if you go into selling and you're like, I'm never going to have one of those sellers or buyers that are going to give me problems. Yes, you are. It is part of it because there's so many more people involved. You're going to get the like the uneducated collectors that just card didn't arrive in a week, negative feedback. How come you didn't send this sooner? You know, and because they don't know any better. For us, I mean, I've waited for cards from Canada for like a month and a half during the Christmas time. I'm like, it'll get here when it gets here, and if it doesn't in like 2 months, then I'll ask for a refund. Sorry, but expectations are everything in this hobby too. You know, it's like getting disappointed that you can't find a Marc-Andre Fleury Young Guns for $200. Well, duh. Go look at past sales. Like, educate yourself. And so that's really helped me. You know, I don't go into this hobby thinking, oh yeah, you know, I'm going to find this Jocelyn Tebow, you know, parallel out of 50 and only get it for $1. Like, that's not realistic anymore. So,
well, I was just going to say, that's just it for me too, is you guys are all teaching me as I come back. Like I said, I've asked all of you guys so many questions. So I feel like I'm still learning. With so many things going on, just the grading stuff alone, it's mind blowing. It almost feels like they need a PhD in grading. But like I said, that helps keep it fresh too. But like you said, you're going to have bad customers and good customers in every venture. I don't care what type of business you're in. It's just the way it is.
Right.
Would you say it balances out though, that you know, when you're talking about very niche stuff like you're talking about Tebows and stuff like that, and based on your experience, have you noticed? Because I would imagine you're probably seeing more, right? Because there's probably more volume. There's more people offering them. I mean, the price is a whole other story, but you're probably seeing more of it, right? So like, at the very least, if you do want something, it's there. The question is going to become, how can you bargain for it? How can you get it at the right price? But it's probably there though, right? And more so than it was a couple of years ago, I would imagine.
Yeah, I mean, when I came in a year ago, I mean, the hobby was kind of the hockey hobby. You know, Dave Archer, who I just posted up, he just got here. He and I discussed on my baseball channel podcast the hobby of hockey collecting is going to start catching up. And I mean, he was right. You know, he was picking up Patrick Waugh and Martin Brodeur rare inserts for like $20, 15, 20, $30. He can't do that now. Now they're 80, 90, 100, 200. I mean, so I think back then there really wasn't much. And then I feel like when Nick listed the Atomic, that was kind of what kicked it off. I was starting to see these really rare cards onto just Tebow, but all your guys' stuff just like popping up. And I'm like, geez, you know, like things are starting to show up. And
that's what's cool.
But then you have to expect too, you have to know it's not going to be cheap. And I'm perfectly fine with that. I'm not going to bargain. Like Jimmy, he's sending me, it's on the way, one of the rarest inserts from the 90s, I mean, as far as them showing up, that you could ever hope for of any player. And I'm like, well, I'm not going to try to bargain down for that card. I'm going to pay good market value for it and not even think twice, because you have
Somebody
to
else will.
understand. Yeah, somebody else is going to buy it. You nailed it. You nailed it, dude. I mean, and Jimmy, I think this is a great topic for you too, because we joke like you're the guy, like you're the dealer, from Recess, the show. Like you always find stuff. But are you finding that there's more and more people coming out of the woodwork with this kind of stuff because the market is so hot, or is it just you're just putting in the work for it?
No, to be honest, maybe I take a business approach to it in the sense that I like networking with people and talking and building relationships. And that's one thing they don't really teach you in school. Like in your career, everyone thinks, oh, I have this piece of paper. No, it's really your network and who you know and how you build connections with people. Because for me, that's in my career, my professional career, that's how I got opportunities. I met people, they saw my character, then they vouched for me for a higher level position. Same thing with the hobby. The guys that I'm dealing with now are mainly older guys. A lot of them I've been dealing with for 10 years. We started off small, where I'd buy a couple, some set fillers for a couple bucks each. We do like $10, $20 deals. And then gradually, as the trust built, the deals got bigger and bigger to the point where some of these guys, I'm like their number one guy. And they're basically saying, "Hey, Jimmy, my buddy just brought this box in. I'm going to send you pictures." Okay, cool. What's the price for everything? So like I've built connections where I was lucky in the sense that I don't have to really go onto eBay. That I'm like dialed in with like people on different parts of the world. Like I even have people eyes out in the hobby for me in Sweden, for example. When I was building the playoff one-on-one challenge set from 95 96, I'd exhausted, like I just couldn't find them. So I had a friend in Sweden and said, "Can you look out for these for me in Sweden?" And lo and behold, he found the Fedorov for me. There was a couple others that he found for me, but pretty much I just try to, almost like with baseball, like how there's scouts like everywhere, pretty much. Like you have like regional level scouts and whatnot in certain areas. I do that with cards too. You build connections with people saying, "Hey, what are you looking for? I'll keep my eyes out. And this is what I'm looking for. If you find anything, you let me know." So it's like you need to network with people, because if you just want to, hit your Explorer button on your computer, go on eBay, type in what you want. Right now, unless you have deep pockets and it's something rare, you're not going to get it for a price that you want. You're going to have to pay whatever the market is, and the market probably is worth. The price is probably way more than you want to pay. So you really got to start talking to other people in the hobby, not being a jerk to people for the most part. Like if you help other people, they will help you. And that's why I think people, for the most part, I've found coming back in, they're very much for themselves, where they're like, I want this, but they're not willing to go out of their way to help others in the hobby. And you're not going to get very far that way. But I do one thing I do enjoy about the hobby is like, just the whole self-improvement and growing aspect of it, because anytime you grow in a different area of the hobby, like let's just say it's box breaks or grading or selling, I guarantee you are going to fail. You will not do what you expected to do, but that's okay because you learn from it and you get better. There's been so many attempts for myself to like be a regular seller, and I failed so many times at it, because for me, like my love for the cards took over, and like I'd be buying like a $500 bulk lot. So like for me, my rule is, okay, whatever I buy, I need to make my money back. If I make my money back, okay, it'd be good to profit, but like I can keep stuff for myself pretty much. Before I'd be like, oh, I bought this $500 lot, I love everything, I'm keeping it. Okay, you run out of money really fast, and then like it's over basically.
Right.
So that's the thing that for me, that was my weakness, was like I love cards, I wanted everything. So I had to get over that. I had to get really like focused on what I wanted to collect, so I could actually keep on growing it, to the point where I was doing a big bulk deal, keeping stuff for my PC and still making money. So then it allowed me to rinse, recycle, repeat, keep on buying more items, stashing more stuff for myself while still selling. Um, so that's why, I mean, I'm like, in my mid 30s right now, but it's taking me that long to kind of figure it out. And I've been in this hobby like I never stopped.
Right.
Um, yeah,
Right there.
I
Right
like that.
there.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah, exactly. Like
Yep.
if you're like, oh, no one's helping me out in the hobby, well, there's a reason for that. You're probably being a jerk to people. So
Right.
really, you need to dive down deep in how you're approaching people for cards and how you're dealing, and maybe find a new way to go about things, and you'll have a lot more success that way.
It's a you
Right.
problem, not a me problem.
Well, I
Like you
mean,
said.
Nick, that's one thing. And when he was talking about that, I thought about you because when you listed the Tebow, I reached out to you, and we ended up emailing each other back and forth for a while, and we got that network going. Which then, because you're a good dude, and I hopefully am a good dude to
Eh.
everybody. I mean, yeah, sometimes kind of an a-hole, but
No.
but then we worked into Instagram, and now we're networking with Cartel, Jimmy, Ryan. I mean, all these different people, Dollar, and that just opens it up to like, oh man, I can learn more about the hobby. I can find some more cards I'm looking for. Like the dude Ryan that sold you that Iserman. Like
Yep.
those types of things are not just going to pop up like Jimmy said. They're not. You have to put yourself out there a little bit and be okay with that. And I think for all of us, we can agree that our collections would be half of what they are right now if we hadn't done that. So, I mean,
It's still funny to me to think Jocelyn Tebow, Atomic Refractor, brought me to all of this, brought me to Instagram. It's just crazy to think about. Like, that's the card, that's the centerpiece.
That's funny. Yeah, I know. I mean, somebody could put a gun to my head and say you can only keep 5 cards in your collection. You got to sell everything else. That will be one I keep because just now it's got
Just
like
funny.
all those memories. It is funny, isn't it? For sure. I mean, but I mean, is that
Well,
something that you've enjoyed a lot too, Nick? Is
well,
the
that's
networking
just
amongst
it.
everybody?
That's just it, because you said like I've done deals with you, I've done deals with Jimmy, Will, a couple of you guys in here, and I just want nice peaceful transitions. I'm not trying to make a ton of money. If I can help you guys, I will. That's why I try not to sell too much, because I tend to try and help people a little bit more than I should. So I know better to kind of back off, because I'll just kind of sell everything at lower prices than I probably should, because that's just where my dad used to be terrible with that stuff, just giving stuff away. But like you said, just I just want to have nice, easy deals. This is still fun to me for now. I don't want to get into some kind of piss and match about 200-300, whatever it may be. Like you said, Jimmy always he comes to me and he's like, hey, I got this. Are you interested? And it's always nice and easy. If I have no interest, I say, hey, thanks, man. Thanks for thinking of me, but no on this one. But the networking really helps. Just getting on here and just talking to people. And it seems like we said before, the hockey community just seems to be pretty good for the most part. I'd say about 90% or so.
Yep.
Haven't had many bad interactions.
All right.
But it just makes it easier. Nobody, like I said, I mean, you turn this into a business, and it just, you get to, I mean, there's money to be made, obviously, but
That's all about balance, that's for sure. I mean, Cartel, you've been in this for quite a while. I mean, is that the networking aspect of things has got to be enjoyable for the most part, right?
Absolutely. And for me, it spans countries and all sorts of different places, because you're meeting people everywhere. And if you're like me, if you find yourself visiting the States and you're somewhere, you wind up at a show, or you wind up at a store, and you want to make good connections there. And it becomes easier, obviously, with Instagram, which was, also for me, because I've only been on there for about a year, maybe less. And I mean, I myself am not a big fan of social media, but I wouldn't change a thing about hopping onto Instagram and meeting everyone, because it reinvigorated the enjoyable aspect of it. For me, it's a business, it is a hobby, and you like you said, it's a balance, because you don't want to find the business end of things infringing on your enjoyment. As long as you're still talking to people, as long as people are messaging you,
having
to say,
fun.
what's up? I have this. Do you have that?
Yep.
You're in it. You're in what brought you to it, and you're in the enjoyable aspect of it.
Enjoyable conversations. Yeah.
Right.
And it's probably more important now with everything becoming so business-like. I get that. I totally get that turning people off. It's Oftentimes, even by accident, conversations are suddenly, start to turn that way towards the market
every
and
time.
values and things like that. So, yeah, I might be talking to someone trying to work a deal out, and then I've got it up. I purposefully put stuff up on eBay sometimes at a very high buy it now, so that I have options, because
Right.
it's much more of a priority to me to help out a friend that's coming over and saying, look, I really need this card. I might not get as much, but I know that they're going to return the favor down the line.
This
But
this stuff's on yeah.
I'll literally be bargaining with one person, and then someone will grab it on eBay, and then they'll be disappointed, and then I'll try to go out of my way to kind of balance that out. But it's adjusting to the craziness. It's a crazy market, but it's this stuff like what we're doing right now, and getting on Instagram and talking to people. That's what's kind of keeping you sane in all of it.
Well, I mean, Dave brought up a great point, just like you're saying. It's about helping each other out and building up those friendships. And you know what? If I don't know if that Aho is still in your possession, but like you're still there. I know. I need him to get like a hat trick, so I'm like, fine, that's it. But the thing is like if you end up selling that to me for a little bit less than you could get for top dollar, what's going to make us feel better? Nick, maybe he gets $20 more for that Tebow, Atomic to the other Tebow collector. Not to say he's not a good guy. I'm sure he's a great guy. But think about what that would have done. Would have been way different, And I think Jimmy's the same way. Jimmy has helped us all for like decent market value. He's never asked for more. But he doesn't like. He isn't going to take a bunch off, but it's not like
he could get more.
Price.
He could always get more. Yep.
He could, and he's helping his friends out, and I think that is something that is certainly getting lost within this craziness. Is because when we were kids, we never thought, oh, this is a great card I just pulled. What's the most I can get for this? You think, oh, hey, my buddy loves Wayne Gretzky. Like his dad loves him. He loves him. Let me see if I can make a trade that's fair, rather than let me get top dollar for this. And I think that's certainly getting lost in this craziness of a market, and the hockey community has still kept that in mind, and I appreciate that a lot. I mentioned that a year ago when I got back into this. I was like, wow, people are like sending me cards for free, and I'm just like, hey, I'll send you this, no big deal. Like that's not like that in any other market, as far as I've noticed. So I think we got to keep that going as best we can, because it's certainly easy to get caught up, like you guys are all saying, in this craziness. So I'm certainly thankful for that. That keeps the hobby fun for me too. Where like if I find a card in a lot, I'm like, hey, I know that Jimmy wants this Jim Carrey. Like he really likes this card. Didn't I just message you like a week ago or something? I thought I found like a lot, and I was like, hey, do you have this Jim Carrey? Like something like that. Like I feel like
I'm trying to remember which one it was.
There was one, right?
Was it like a Sports Illustrated for kids, or no? It was the Jello one.
The Jello one.
The cutout thing, yeah.
Right, which is not like major, but I think it's
nice
just as much
to
fun.
At least offer, yeah.
Yeah, it's fun to be looking out for your friends, because when it becomes business, like you lose that. It's like Cartel, he's looking for this card right here, but you know what? This guy's gonna pay me $20, $30 more. I'll take the money instead. I don't know. You're like, what's gonna make you feel better? The $30 or the friendship?
Well, Will says it best. He loves spending other people's money. So I love taking screenshots of stuff and sending them to you guys and being like, something I know you were looking for. And if it's a good deal, like, that Upper Deck I was sending you from that one app, if it's something like that, especially if it's something you're looking for, like I said, always just trying to help people too.
Right.
Definitely helps.
That being said, there are some people in my life who are a lot less coming to me with stuff like we did in the past, any sort of arrangement we had with the back and forth.
Mm-hmm.
And I find what they're doing is they're just going straight to eBay and taking what they can get. And again, depending on someone's situation, right? Like if someone is in a bad financial situation, this is something that is helping in a big way. And I've seen it in some people's lives. And I can't get mad at that, right? Because I'll be like, oh man, I would have really liked that, but man, did I can't believe they got that price. And I'm happy for them,
right?
Because I wouldn't have been able to pay that. So I'm happy that they got that.
Yeah. I completely agree, because they don't owe you anything at that point. I mean, it's nice, but at the end of the day, you don't know who's going through what. I mean, it's their card. Like I said, I appreciate them just kind of reaching out first. If it's something I can't afford, I'll let you know. Hey, it's way deeper pockets than me. Yeah. But I get it, like you said, especially with COVID going on. You don't know who's going through what.
There are a lot of people, particularly when they have families and stuff. I'm like, you know what? This is a big boon to them that that they can go into stuff that they already have, and I mean, we're talking multipliers of like 5 to 10 times, and I can't hate on them for that. That's just taking care of you and yours, and
exactly.
Yeah,
I mean, what's best for you. Yep.
I think these are all great points. I mean, just for me, a big goal of mine. Everybody makes resolutions, which I mean, I think those are silly. I think you can do those whenever you want. You don't need January 1st to remind you to do something different with your life. But ever since I got back into hockey, it's really allowed me to think, okay, I need to be more positive about what I'm doing with my collection, because the hockey community is just so helpful. I'm like, this is what collecting should be like, you know. And so I kind of took that and said, I want to keep things positive. And so I think that keeping that in mind has kept me from being burned out. You know what I mean? I always try to find the positives in my collection. Like, hey, think about what I do have. Like, yeah, I just lost that Fleury, and I lost the Sebastian Aho card that I really, really wanted yesterday, and I was bummed. But I'm like, well, you know, I went and looked at the shelf. I'm like, those are some freaking sweet Aho cards right there. Like, come on now. Think about what you do have. And so I try really hard to keep positive, you know. Like, had I lost out on the Mirror Gold, maybe that would have been a bit tougher for me, but then you just make sure you don't lose. You know,
well, you prioritize at that point.
Right, exactly. So, I mean, that's another good piece of advice. Prioritize what you really, really enjoy doing. You know, if you enjoy flipping cards, or you enjoy, you know, collecting, you know, some random player, like, do that. You know, like, don't try to just always be taking advantage of the market, because it'll suck the energy out of you, man.
Whatever really you enjoy. Will. You said earlier, you know, whatever you enjoy. This hobby brings all types of enjoyment, so whatever you enjoy doing, man, that's the name of the game.
There's plenty of options. Go ahead, Cartel. Yeah,
I think Jimmy mentioned it when we started, is that's it's an opportunity. Like, you know, yeah, if you're just like the soulless flipping is horrible. I remember a few years back I was doing that because I kind of created a system where I followed certain sellers, and I waited for auctions at certain times, and I was constantly like, I'd flip like a $10 card for $20, and of course that always helped with your PC and stuff like that.
Yeah,
but it was also like so you know, mechanical and boring. Now it's like, you know, with this Huberto play that I did, it's like, number one, you're taking advantage of your knowledge and the fact that you're watching hockey every day, which some people aren't, and you know, some people don't have time or whatever. I'm certainly watching more hockey than ever in lockdown. If I see an opportunity, I can do that, and I'm going to enjoy that Huberto card while I have it. I'm not going to be in a huge rush to sell it, and I kind of have more peace of mind than ever that when I do sell it, I'm probably going to make twice my money. So that's combining the fact that I'm going to, like, you know, I don't know, this kind of nerdy and geeky, but again, the cataloging for me is everything. Get the card. If the slab needs cleaning, I'm going to clean it. I'm going to you know, put it into my inventory on a spreadsheet. I'm going to put it where it needs to be in a box. I'm in no rush to move it. I'm enjoying it. And when the time comes and I need to move it because I need something else, or if I need to, whatever, if there's an emergency, I need to pay a bill. That's kind of one of the cooler aspects of the market right now, is like, you can flex your knowledge to your advantage. So you are kind of engaging in quote unquote flipping, but you're still enjoying hockey and the hobby.
Right.
So
all good points for sure. Well, we're kind of getting to that like 15 minutes left window, and I thought what we could do now that we've kind of got ourselves in a positive frame of mind is give people an idea of what we're going to be doing next week, because I think we're all really excited about it. I know I am. I got the idea from, you know, the NBA doing it, but I wanted to talk a little bit about how we can, you know, how we're going to decide what pool of players we're talking about, because Ryan and I spoke 3 days ago on here, just on a test chat, about how we should, like, what players we should draft, what players we shouldn't draft, and for me, I wanted to keep it, rather than just saying any hockey player ever, because I don't know, I'm not that versed on the really, you know, old school hockey players, and nor do I think those should be treated the same as a player from the 90s, because the game was so different. So first of all, is everybody in agreement that it'd be fun to just, if the player played in the 90s, you can draft them to your team? Does everybody think that that's it? I mean, it's broad, but it's still between 1990 and 1999. I feel like that gives us a big pool to choose from.
Also, their production. So, like a Joe Thornton. I mean, what was he? 90. Played what 2-3 years. The end of the 90s.
Yeah.
You're not gonna get.
Right.
You're not gonna get Hart, Joe Thornton. That you
Right.
got in 2005 or whatnot, or whenever he won it.
Right. So, I
Or
mean,
Wayne Gretzky. You're not getting a 92 goal Wayne Gretzky.
I mean, you're still getting a heck of a player for sure.
140 point Gretzky, but maybe not 210 point Gretzky.
Right. I mean, Jimmy, you and Cartel, you guys both have a lot of hockey knowledge. I'm there, but I'm not to the point where you guys are. Do you feel like that's a really good option to be drafting players from 90s based upon their 90s, like how good they were in the 90s, their production? Is that a pretty good basis for what we should go for here?
It seems like it is, but yeah, it's just kind of finding the parameters in terms of how much they played. Because yeah, I mean, there are going to be players that I instantly think of if you say 90s players, but
Right.
there are some of those. I mean, those were the good points, like Thornton on the tail end, and so maybe maybe someone who played a certain amount of years in the 90s. I don't know if we want to start going down that route.
Right.
So I just want to clarify. So what are we exactly when we build our teams? What are we trying to accomplish? Is there going to be a vote for who has the best team, or
Yeah.
The
I think
all-hobby
that's gonna be the best way, because as much as we could like build these teams into like NHL 99, like if the player only played till 95, you can't do that. So I thought it would be kind of like a vote, but also do a discussion. Like once the teams are made, you could have an episode where each guy gets to pitch why their team is going to be the best. I mean, as far as hockey goes, it's tricky because I don't want to draft 4 lines of forwards and 3 lines of defense and 2 goalies. I mean, that's a lot of players because I don't think Ryan's going to be here. So I think we're going to have, if I can also draft if you guys want. I was just going to be the guy that keeps it moving, which would be easier. But that would still be 6 people picking teams. And so you've got
Original 6.
Yeah, so you've got 6 people draft. That's a great point, Nick. 6 people drafting. You've got 6, or did I say 6 forwards? Yeah, 6 forwards. You've got 4 defensemen, and because goalies are awesome, I was thinking 3 goalies, just because. Why not? Because that's going to give my guy a chance to get picked, and Jim Carrey for that matter. But it's gonna be fun. I think I just wanted to take a few minutes to kind of talk about some parameters. That way, when we start the episode next week, I can kick it off with those parameters. Here's what we're looking at. This list of players. I mean, Ryan had a really good idea. Do we look at a checklist from a set and use that? Because then you could use that as like your checklist, is in a way like, okay, this player's been drafted. This player's been drafted. Do we do something like that?
well, there's a site called, I think it's called like Quaint Hockey or something.
Yep.
Yeah, something random.
That's what we should use.
But you could even just Google, it's like most games played in the 90s or something, and it'll give you like this massive list of like players. It'll go on for like ever, pretty much. Like player who played 1,000 games in the 90s to 1 game. I'm pretty sure it goes all the way.
That's better than Hockey Reference for what we're gonna do.
Oh yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I think we should go with that too. Quaint Hockey. Yeah, look that up, because you go from literally January 90 to December 99.
Yeah,
right?
you could just Google like most games played in the 90s.
Most points in the 90s. Yeah, whatever.
Yeah. All right,
that's probably, I think, our best, because like I said, a checklist. If you want to do these 20-second fire offs, there might be somebody who's not on a checklist who we might think is, I don't know. I feel like that's a pretty good one.
Well,
yeah, there we go.
I just posted it in the comments for everybody, and also in the private chat. Like, I mean, yeah, I just clicked 1990s, and here's all the stats of everybody from the 1990s. I mean, this is
that's perfect. I think.
Yeah, that's
where I got my Tebow stats for you last week.
I don't want to hear about what ranking he is, dude.
23rd wins.
So, who do you think played the most games in the 90s?
Most games.
Most games played
in the 90s.
I start thinking about rookies from 90-91 is what I
said.
Right.
Exactly.
You're right.
Stevens.
Fedorov, Sakic.
Okay, I'll give you the top 5. So starting at number 5, Matt Sundin.
Yeah.
4 is Theo Fleury.
Dono.
3 is Vincent D'Onfoust. 2 is Larry Murphy, and number 1 is Mark Recchi. 774 games played.
Wow, that is pretty impressive. That is pretty impressive. And think about goalies too. Like, let's not talk about wins, because I think that not necessarily that's also justifying being on a really good team. Like you look at James Reimer's stats, they're not great, but he's won like 8 games and only lost 1 because he's playing for the Canes. Like I think the wins category is tough, but who do you guys think are top 5 goals against average from the 90s? Because that's always fun to think
Hasek's
about.
gotta be one.
All right, Hasek is
Gotta
4.
be.
He's
Really?
4. Yep.
Brodeur.
Is there some sort of minimum
Brodeur
games here?
Well, that's the thing. If we're saying at least 100 games, then the
say.
list changes. Yeah, so
Yeah, I was gonna
that's
say.
100 games minimum. So Brodeur is 2nd, Hasek is 3rd, Osgood is 4th. Number 1 is Roman Turek. He's got 122 games. And then Belfour is right after Osgood. So Turek, Brodeur, Hasek, Osgood, Belfour are your
You
top
sure?
5.
I'm showing. Okay, I'm showing Brian Boucher as number 1.
Well, but only 35
okay, yeah, 35 games.
Yeah. Yeah.
You got a 1.91, the only sub 2.
I mean, but then you look at like wins, and you're looking at, of course, Patrick Waugh, Ed Belfour, Curtis Joseph, Brodeur.
I love
Mike
seeing
Richter.
the stats of the goalies. Brodeur, 1 goal, 18 assists.
I mean,
Osgood, 1 goal, 8 assists.
Yeah, I mean, all these guys are going to be picked too. It's going to be fun. But yeah, I think that's great for using that. Thanks for recommending that site. So I think this will give us a week to really think about, okay, priorities when you're drafting your team. Like if we were going to be able to draft these guys and they were to play in like a 3 games per like best of 2 playoff series and play down, like who thinks they have the best team? So quiet, Dave. We're not going to look at where Tebow is on that list.
Guys, I got a jet.
Okay, perfect.
I'll check in with you again about the parameters and whatnot, and I look forward to that.
We're going to get these figured out, and I'll have it typed up. So
peace.
Later,
thanks,
Cartel.
All right, so before we call it an episode, any other parameters that you guys can think of? So if we're using this site, that's perfect, right? Like I've got a basis for what list of players we're going to use. Are there any other parameters we should think of besides like how many on each team, what site we're using? Anything else you guys can think of?
Maybe awards and honors. I'm sure Ray Bork was a first team all-star like 10 times in the 90s.
Right.
Maybe stuff like that.
Yep.
Hart trophies, Norris trophies, whatnot. Maybe throw that in kind of the mix.
I mean, I feel like we should let like the Instagram community vote on what team they think is the best, and it doesn't have to have any sort of bias by like points or anything like that. Because like if you think about it, like you need a lot on a team for them to be successful. Like you just can't have a team of all scorers. Like you need defensive players, grinders. Like, I don't know if you guys watch, like, I watch a lot of old Pittsburgh Penguins games from, like, their prime years in the 90s.
Oh, baby.
They didn't really play defense, man. Like, do you see Mario Lemieux back-checking or Jagger back-checking? No, not really. So if you have a whole team like that, you're going to be in trouble. So you need a team that's well-balanced.
Yep. Or your top 5 guy thing. I mean, Vincent Danfus has 10 more points than Fedorov in the 90s, but I think we're all taking Sergei Fedorov over didn't Fedorov play defense for a while too? He did for a little bit. And I think he won 2 Selkies in the 90s too, and a Hart Trophy. But right there, there's a guy who has 10 more points than him. But I don't think anybody's probably going to take him.
Well, and I'm curious too, like how many people for that were successful in the early 90s. Like as a goalie fan, Tom Barrasso. I mean, he was awesome on those Stanley Cup teams for the Penguins. But there's
3 big guns there.
Well,
Brodeur, Hasek.
Yeah, but he digressed by 95. Like Barrasso was injury prone, and he kind of just slowly stopped playing. But he was a heck of a player for like 2-3 years at the beginning of the 90s. I mean, he was a great goaltender. So I'm really curious how many of those
goal
people,
production at that time.
Well, I
now,
mean,
like that.
Yeah.
Now, really important question. Can I pick Gordie Howe? Because he technically played 1 game for the Vipers in the 90s.
Vipers are not an NHL team, so no. They have to be playing NHL. But I mean, remember, we're also talking about 90s production. You wouldn't draft Gordie Howe, even though he played 1 game.
How do you know?
I mean, is he going to be your coach? You can make he's your
I'd put him on the ice.
I need some grit. I need grit in the corners, man.
Great 4th line, right wing, even at 68.
Also, very interesting fact that most people don't know. When the expansion for Panthers came out, they actually contacted Dennis Potvin to see if he'd be willing to come out of retirement and play for them. No joke.
That's funny.
And he'd been retired for, I think, like 6 years by that point. And he said he skated a couple times, and he was like, "Yeah, this isn't going to happen, guys."
Wow. Back to the Gordie Howe point. I saw he only had 2 Gordie Howe actually hat tricks himself.
I know there wasn't.
You know who has
very
the
many.
most? You know who has the most all time?
Most hat tricks of all time.
Most Gordie Howe hat tricks. A goal, assist, and a fight.
Oh,
who has the most? He's a '90s player.
Claude Lemieux.
Rick Tocchet.
Oh, he was a good player though.
That's what I mean. He was a good power. That's right there. Goal, assist, and a fight. I mean, I could see like a guy like Cam Neely maybe being up there too. But yeah, Rick.
I like that. Yeah, I like that. The Jofa bucket. Maybe I'll just go with an all Jofa team, like Phil Housley and.
Gotta get Jagger and Mario.
Yeah, exactly.
Get Solani if you can.
Everybody should think about, what is your team name going to be? Come up with kind of a strategy. That's the thing. When that NBA draft was done, Kevin McHale was a Celtic, and he drafted all Celtic guys. And what was great about his draft strategy is he talked about why he picked everybody. I'm picking Bob Cousy. I mean, they did any NBA player, but because he won this many championships, and this is what he innovated in the game at the time. Like, hopefully everybody's got a few seconds so they can say, well, I'm going to pick Rick Tocchet because he's got the most Gordie Howe hat tricks, and he's going to give toughness to my team. Boom, my pick is Rick Tocchet. Okay, great, type it in, move on to the next guy. I think it's going to be good for everybody to kind of just, say, I'm picking Gordie Howe because he's going to add toughness in the corners, and not everybody will like that pick, but it's your team. And so I think, spend a little bit of time looking at this site and deciding.
You guys ever see, back to my Simpsons reference, you guys ever see the original softball episode when Mr. Burns wanted Honus Wagner and a bunch of guys that were dead? Sir, these guys are dead.
But yeah, Matt, and you'll have a montage queued up with highlight videos. So like if I take Mario Lemieux, they'll be like Mario Lemieux, and there'll be like all these highlights.
I'm not putting that much work in, dude. I still got to teach, and
you better have my Craig Jenny highlights ready too.
Dude, Craig Jenny was 29th for scoring leaders in the 90s. Yeah,
he was underrated, dude.
611 points. John Leclaire was next, 615.
Point a game guy in his career. He played like 750 a year.
Not very many because of injuries.
Yeah, he's more known for his little dispute with Shanny, but that's another day.
Yeah, I'm really excited. Yeah, it's nice to see Miles in here. I'm really excited to see what everybody comes up with, and then the viewers, what they're saying. Like, oh man, that was a steal of a pick. I think I'm interested to see who's going to be taken in the first couple rounds because we're going to snake draft it. So even if Nick has a last pick, he's going to have 2 picks in a row at the end. So I think
it's 6 and 7 or whatnot.
Exactly.
1 and 13 or 1 and 11.
Right. So it's going to be interesting. There was so much talent in the 90s. Like I think we can probably say who's going to be the first pick. I think it's probably between 2 players if I was going to predict. But
Tebow and Jim Carrey.
Yeah, that's right, baby. Darren Pupa and Tim Shovelday. But yeah, I think once we start getting into like the 3rd through the 12th rounds or whatever, that's when those picks are going to be like, oh man, I forgot about this guy. Like holy smokes, I should have thought about that. Like he was a beast from like 95 to, because he might not be in the all time leaders, but if you like.
Guy like Kevin Stevens had a couple really nice years
in the early 90s.
Think about Joe Mullen.
Yep. Think about the guys that were successful for like 3-4 years, like
lots
the end
of
the
names.
90s.
Zubov, Sergei Zubov,
Cliff Ronning. Cliff Ronning's 35th in points. He's tied with Paolo Bure for the most points in the 90s.
So we need you to pick all the unknown guys, Jimmy, and just have a team of unknown guys.
Okay, I kid you not. I want to be different.
Steve Thomas is only a couple behind him too.
I'm gonna do something very different. Just to let you guys know. I might go with like all like 90s flop draft picks and Blaine Locker. Yeah, but no, I have like a first line of like Dag, Bon Senior, and like I'm trying to think of another failed prospect. Pat Peak. There you go. I don't know. That's my first line, guys. So someone who's not going to be a flop anymore if that's my team right there.
Well, I'm really curious to see what kind of strategies you all go with, and like if your team name is going to be themed around your draft strategy. I just think there's a lot of potential to be had. I sent the link out. Check out that NBA one they did at TNT with Charles and Weber and all those guys, and just see how they kind of they pick somebody, they talk about why. And then they'd move on to the next pick. I think I can handle at least being the host and just moving you guys along. And and whatnot, and giving some jabs at picks. That'll be fun for me. Then I don't have to make fun of my own picks. But yeah, anyways, I'm really looking forward to doing this with you guys next week, and we'll have everybody here. We'll have, except I think Ryan probably won't be here, but you and Nick will be here, Jimmy, and then we'll have Cartel, we'll have Miles back, we'll have Dollar Rookies here, and we'll have Vinny. So we'll have all 6 people here.
Original 6, man. Let's go with original 6 teams. We can do that.
Yep, there you go.
Pick a name out of a hat, and that's your team.
Oh, so you're saying to put the names of the actual teams, like the Maple
If there's
Leafs
6 of
and
us
the
picking,
Canadiens?
why not?
Yeah.
Unless we want to go with our own names, but I don't feel like being that creative. That's too
Come
much.
on, dude. You've got to be like something around your dad and set collecting. It has to be your team name. Like, I feel like it's just a given, right? For sure. But
Pops Obsession.
yeah, there it is.
The
Boom.
Pop Obsession. The comic book guys.
Comic book guys, I like it.
Dude, I looked up. I had a picture ready to go for you, man. I was like, nah, I can't do that.
I'm telling you, I'm well on my way.
No, you just got to like speak in that voice of his for
I
like
know.
one of your
We've been
picks.
watching a lot of that recently, so all of it's really fresh for me.
That's funny.
Recycling information, that's where we're at.
That's right.
Recycling content. But yeah, I'm going to get going here too soon,
Yeah,
guys.
same here,
So,
guys.
Thanks for making it, everybody that was watching. Jimmy, Nick, thanks for making it, and we'll keep in contact about the draft next week. Really looking forward to that.
All right.
So
sounds good.
all right,
Later,
Thank you, everybody,
guys.
for listening,
take care,
guys.
everybody.